Welcome, my queens. Super excited for this episode today because I have the lovely Katie back. She's been on this podcast before, but I wanted to have her on again because she's fun and she's juicy and it's super aligned to have her back on. And she can share with you what she's recently created because it looks epic AF. And I can't wait for her to tell you all about it. But let me just tell you a little bit about Katie if you don't know her already. So, in Katie's own words, she's a 90s hip hop loving, lipstick obsessed personal stylist who teaches women how to feel good in their bodies now without losing weight or without working harder. She is the host of the Styled for Life podcast, where she shares inspirational messages each week around mental wellness, body confidence, and style solutions. Style isn't about what you wear, it is how you live. So, Katie, welcome again to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to chat.
Me too. And for those that are not watching the YouTube right now, and before I press record, I mean, Katie always looks incredible, right? She's a stylist. She's kind of got to, but she just oozes it naturally. She literally looks like a sexy grape today.
That's the best compliment I've ever gotten.
You really do. That's just what came to me. The vibrant, the color, the purple, like just juicy.
Woo! I love juicy. That's one of my words. Like I have a couple of words written on the wall that when I need to get back in my vibe, and juicy is one of those words. So thank you.
I love it. You are welcome. All right, 10 rapid fire questions that I
Ooh,
literally made up 10 minutes before this podcast. So are you ready?
I think so.
Okay, number one, forest or beach?
Oh, beach, baby. I was born on the beach.
Love it. Number two, dogs or cats?
I'm gonna have to go with cats because I just got one and I feel like, that would be disloyal to her.
Agree. Number three, favorite food?
Oof, I have so many, but I mean, let's just go pizza.
Oh, yeah, I'm with that. Number four, okay, I hope this isn't too hard for you to answer. What is your favorite color dress to wear?
Oof, favorite color dress to wear. So I'm gonna have to go with something in like a bright pink, like magenta.
Mm,
Similar to like the color of the sweater. I would say that has to be my favorite color, but I'm a classic girl, so I do love a good black dress.
yes, LBT, me too.
Can't go wrong with it. You
Uh,
cannot go wrong with
you
it.
can't. All right. I've never asked this one before. It just randomly came to me. Number five. Do you have a favorite flower?
Ooh, so I have a couple different flowers that I love, but right now I'm definitely vibing on a rose. It's my like sign that I ask for. My grandmother passed away in the beginning of the pandemic when like things were wild and we weren't sure if we could like have funerals and stuff. And
Mm.
the rose was how I honored her like by myself with my own little private ceremony. Oh, I have the chills. So that's been like my vibe over the last 3 years is like when I see the rose, I feel connected and like it's a sign.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that as well.
Oh, of course.
Okay, number six. Three things you love about yourself.
Three things I love about myself.
Yes.
Um, God, this is the hard one, right? Like loving yourself. So I love my I'm gonna use the word charisma. Like I love my ability to always go for fun and be entertaining. Like for me, that was a space I always struggled was understanding and realizing that there's value in entertainment. So I've really tried to embody this space of I'm allowed to teach through entertainment and just like having fun. So my sense of humor. So I love that. Another thing I love about myself is just, I mean, we were just talking about this too, is like my ability to just step in and do scary stuff. Like it's still scary. I'm still nervous. I'm still ready to like vomit, but I just do it. And then like I'm really proud of that. I'm just proud of my drive, who I am. Another thing I love about myself, I would say, is my depth. So at the same time, I love being super funny and I love style, which some people think can be really shallow. And sometimes sense of humors are perceived as shallow, but I am also so deep, like deeper than the ocean. I choose the beach all day.
Yes, I love those things about you as well.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, number seven, the worst diet that you've ever been on.
Oh my God. So it's 2002 probably. And like the Atkins is that the no carbs diet comes
Yes.
out. And I will never forget. So I waited tables all through college at sports bars. So like really long hours, like on your feet. I was working full time to put myself through college. And I was doing the like high protein, no carb diet. And I will never forget, like, I was killing myself and I was at work and I was doing that. And I literally almost fainted. And someone was like, just eat this wrap. Like, it's got chicken and rice in it. And you're allowed to eat this. And I ate it. And I was like 20, 21. And I ate it. And I was like, this is dumb. Like that was just like one of those moments. Like I will never forget where I was. I remember what I was wearing. I remember everything about this moment. Like I'm 42. That was literally 21 years ago. And I was like, this is dumb. It's just dumb. It was one of those moments, and not that this journey's been perfect, but it was one of those moments where you're like, okay, I need to listen to my body first and foremost.
Yes. I love the way you were like, just have a wrap. It was just such a wrap. I mean, I would have been like, have a donut.
I don't know. Whoever, like, they were probably eating it, right? Because it's a restaurant. So they were
Yes.
probably eating it in the break room because I was walking out of the break room and they were like, here, eat this wrap. It's got carbs. Like, there's some rice in here. You're not going to die.
That's so funny. I think we've all done, I mean, not all of us, but most people that will be listening to this podcast, I guarantee 99.9% of them would have done low carb at some point, and it sucks so bad.
Oh, God, it sucks.
It
Like,
does.
but I'm grateful for that moment because I still remember it. And, then
Mm.
when I have moments like that now, when I feel really extreme on a topic one way or the other, I'm like, just eat the wrap.
Yes, metaphor for life, just eat the wrap. All right, number eight, the most common limiting belief that your clients have when they first start to work with you.
Oh, the most common limiting belief. I think the most common limiting belief I hear is what will other people think? Whether it's like they're just worried what other people will think about what they wear, or it's usually actually someone that's really close to them and the things that those people have said to them over time. So it's really just the narrative in their head that they've picked up from other people
Mm.
who are putting their limiting beliefs on them. I think that's the hardest thing. I mean, outside of just like, am I too old, or am I too skinny, or too big, or too short, or too tall? For me, it's the stories that they've picked up from other people and how they think other people want them to dress. And I think that's really surprising.
Yes, I can feel that. Number nine, what's the most favorite thing about what you do, Katie?
Oh, well, I think my most favorite thing is, to me, fashion is medicine, and I've always connected with it. And when I started this a long time ago, I've always been connected to the energetics of it and the emotional side of it and the mental side of it. But that's all stuff that we're just talking about now. So when I first began this fashion journey, it was really just physical, and I knew it was deeper than that, but I didn't have the language for it. So I think the most exciting thing now is being able to have a platform and a space where I can take people through that and show them how they can use it for themselves, first and foremost, just like any other tool in our mental wellness health toolbox. So that's the most exciting thing to me, is when someone like has that aha moment, or the look in someone's eyes when they see themselves. Like when they send me a picture, I can just tell by their eyes. Like, does their smile reach their eyes? Like how they feel. And that's the most magical, I think, to me.
Yes. Oh, yes. So I feel like I'm having an orgasm. Yes. Oh, yes. I don't sound
The
like that. I
sexy
sound way
break is
better.
turning you on.
And the last question, which is strange to ask at the beginning, but I like to do this because it sets the tone for the conversation. What do you want people to take away from the conversation we're going to have today?
Ooh, very similar to the last topic that we just talked on. I want people to take away that developing our personal style is so much deeper
Mm.
than just how we look on the outside. It's so much deeper than your physical appearance. Physical appearance matters, and we make assumptions about people all day long based on their physical appearance.
Mhm.
But I want people to understand that they actually get to control that narrative. And it really has to do with those underneath layers that we think about on the inside. And I personally believe that it's the missing piece
Mm.
of this like mental wellness trend that's been happening over the last decade. And it's could be the most fun piece. And I'm definitely here for fun.
Oh, yeah. And let's dive straight into that big question then. So, why is style so much deeper than physical appearance? So, can you like expand on that more and how we can go into that for ourselves every day?
Yes, for sure. So I just attended this like habit transformation conference by some ladies that I've been following for years, and then they became clients of mine. And just doing that, and they do really deep work, and I like to go so deep. So just having that experience with them and them kind of reflecting back to me the things that we were doing, and then attending that conference was like this big accumulation of like everything coming together, and I really saw it differently. And I was like, so for me, style is really the like four pillars of, and you could break it down, but we'll just keep four pillars, right? Like I really see it like as your physical self, your mental self, your emotional self, and your energetic self. So the physical self obviously is the clothes that we wear, the clothes that we allow ourselves to wear, the way they
Yeah.
can feel on our body, the way that people interact with us based on our clothes. We've all had those interactions, right? Like if I go to the store, and this is one of my favorite things to do, if I don't feel like being talked to, is going to the store in my sweatpants, no makeup, messy bun. I love it, right? Because I'm trying to get in and out. It's not a fashion show. I really don't want you to talk to me. Like I'm just running chores. Like that's cool. That's a physical interaction that I have with other people. When I do get dressed up and go to the store, and by saying getting dressed up, when I put the effort and intention into my outfits to really feel like myself, is a completely different physical interaction that I have with
Mm.
myself when I see myself in the mirror, and that I have with other people. So like that's the pillar that we've existed in, I think, our whole lives, is like I have to buy this designer shirt, and I have to look this certain way, and I have to do this, and all these outwardly things. But then the next three layers are where I think the magic happens.
Mm.
And what I learned about myself, this answer is getting really long, but I'm gonna have to like
It's
take a
good.
step. I was like,
Do
I'm
your
gonna
thing.
take
I
a
can bring
step.
you in if you need me to, but I love hearing you speak. So go, girl.
Let's talk. So I went to school for fashion in 1999, right? Like that's when I started college. I always joke it's before the internet. Yes, the internet existed, but we weren't obsessed with the internet, right? Like we are now. There was no social media, nothing like that. So I abandoned fashion essentially as a career and went into marketing for years. But in 2020, when I lost that 17-year marketing career, and the whole world was losing everything, right? Like it wasn't just me. That was just, I'm one of many in that story, getting dressed every single day when no one could see me. Right. I wasn't even allowed to see my parents, essentially, right? Like all the rules of like, don't see, hang out with people outside of your family home because we don't know what COVID's going to do. Getting dressed every single day during the scariest moments of COVID was how I stayed above water. And I was like, oh shit, this has nothing to do with my physical appearance
Mm.
outwardly to like what other people, it only has to do with how I perceive myself, what I think I'm capable of, etc. That's how I survived the beginning of the pandemic, which then in turn led to me losing my job in the pandemic. And that's how I continued to survive. And that's ultimately how I came back to like, oh, yeah, that's right. I can make this my business and a career. I forgot. And that's when I was like, okay, there's these other levels, the mental, the emotional, and the energetics. And that's what I talk about like on my podcast all the time. And that's what I talk to my ladies about. So like the mental is the mental gymnastics, like you were just talking about, like the limiting beliefs we have around
Mm.
our bodies. One thing I hear all the time is like, well, I want to look relevant, but I don't want to look like my 20-year-old nieces. Well, you won't, right? Like no matter what, you won't. You're going to carry yourself differently. Um, I don't want to follow trends, but am I allowed to wear these booties? Like, are these booties still okay? And I'm like, we need to reframe the way we think about trends and like how we want to be relevant. Those are all the internal dialogues we're having to ourselves. The mental piece is like the am I too old? Am I too fat? What will my mom think? Oh my God, when I was little, my sister said my thighs are too big. I can't wear this. Oh, my first grade teacher told me my skirt was too short, or my hemline on my shirt was too low. My neckline was too low and I'm showing too much cleavage. Like that's the mental gymnastics of it. And everyone listening is like, oh yeah, that's why I don't get dressed. That's why when we stand in our closets in the morning, like outfits just don't appear and create themselves because we're having an internal dialogue with ourselves around what all of this means. It's not, does red and black go together, and does am I allowed to wear blue and black? It's every mental agreement that we've ever had around what clothes mean to us. And I think it's super similar to food, right?
Mhm.
Because that's where I feel like I struggle the most is I'm standing in front of the refrigerator just like waiting for my meal plan to show itself, and it's not. And like everything I've ever heard about food is like just like rushing at me, and it's all my mental agreements. It's everything I've picked up from other people.
Mm.
So that to me is like, okay, so now this next level is mental, which is what are the stories I have around fashion? What are the stories I have around people who care about what they look like? What are the stories I have around people that look a certain way because they remind me of someone? So like this color, it could be like, oh, my mom wears that color. And my mom makes me feel XYZ. If those feelings are negative, then you never want to wear that color,
Yeah.
right? So then that kind of leads us into like the emotional piece of it. So, and the emotional and mental, like I said, it's hard to split this in, but my mind, when I think, so that's the mental piece. It's like my internal dialogue around what fashion means, around what style means, doesn't mean that you're a fashionista. Everybody has a style, whether they want to think that they do or not.
Mm.
The way that you present yourself to yourself when you wash your hands in the mirror, the way you present yourself to other people, you're constantly communicating something about yourself all the time. I know at the end of the weekend, because a lot of times on the weekend, I don't wear makeup or I'm a lot more chill, or I'll slub around all day in my pajamas on a Sunday and do nothing because I'm constantly out of my comfort zone during the week. By the end of that, I'm like, that's not the woman that was like,
Yeah.
launching communities last week. Like, who are you? Um, so then when I move into the emotional piece, and this is like what I've really built my business on because I felt like the 2020 and how I see fashion is the emotional side. Is how do I want to feel?
Mm.
Like, how do I want to feel? What are those words? So, like, this is how I started my self-development journey, and you can share yours was like, how do you want to feel? Like, what are your core desired feelings? What is your word of the year? Like, what are these things that we're like, what are your values, even? Like, we're always looking for those identifiers.
Yeah.
And then I would tell my ladies, like, write those down, and they're allowed to change because you're going to change. And that's why these are essentially habits that we build, and go into your closet and say like, does this black sweater, which that's not even a black sweater, but does this blue sweater make me feel confident? Does it make me feel joy? Does it make me feel juicy? And if the answer is no, then it's like, okay, well, why do I have this sweater? Does it look good on my body? Does it make me feel good when I wear it? Or did my mom give it to me and I felt like I had to keep it because it was a gift
Mm.
from her and I'd hurt her feeling? Or did my husband said he likes it and I wear it because he likes it, even though I don't really like it?
Yes.
And then it becomes that narrative. And then there's so many things there around like asking yourself, like, why am I wearing this? Does it make me be who I want to be? What memories am I creating in this outfit? Because all your clothes have memories attached to them, right?
Mhm.
They're like the physical grounding thing that when you're at an event, when you're doing something, like you remember what you had on that day you got the news, whether good or bad,
Mhm.
ugly, pretty, whatever. Um, I feel like I'm talking a lot, so I'm gonna take a breath and let you step in. I mean, there's still an energetic level to it.
Yeah, I mean, the whole time you've been talking internally, I've been like, oh my God, yes. Like, I just want to share because I love to talk about me. So I'm going to do that as well. Like, with the mental stuff, like, I was told, and this was like a kind of trauma that I had to overcome with my body image. I have big legs, and then you shouldn't wear anything above the knee, and then you can't wear skinny jeans. And that like ruled my life in the way I saw fashion until a few years ago, even, which was really interesting to me. And also, I had a limiting belief of I don't know how to do fashion, I don't know what looks good. And yeah, I may not know it like you in terms of helping other people, but I have a fucking intuition where I'm like, yeah, I like that. And it's just trusting that, isn't it? And just going for it and seeing if it looks good on you or not. And I also have clothes in my wardrobe that my wonderful fiance brought for me as a surprise that I've kept because he likes them. And I don't even, and literally, I don't even like them on me. So
Yeah.
they need to go. So thank you for that.
Oh yeah, and we can talk about that too. Like it's really hard to let things go. There's so many things that come up there. Like your lack of mindset will kick in and it'll be like, oh my God, you got to hold on to these clothes because what if and that thing might come up and you're gonna need this outfit. I call bullshit. Am I allowed to cuss on your podcast?
Yes. Hello. Who am I?
I know. I like we have the same podcast, right? Like this is I'm allowed to go. Like I call bullshit because if you're doing that next level thing, you're going to buy yourself new clothes. It's just like losing weight. Do not like so, I've gained 20 pounds since the pandemic, right? Um, those clothes that I'm saving, which I'm not, but the clothes that I was saving, when I lose this weight, if I choose to lose this weight, am I going to be the same Katie before the pandemic? Fuck no. Like
I hope
she
not.
died, she died 1,000 deaths. And take the pandemic out of it, it doesn't matter. Pandemic or no pandemic, I've died 1,000 deaths since last week because we're constantly learning, we're constantly doing things. So, I mean, literally physically, your cells are regenerating, emotionally, mentally. Like if you're listening to Queen Victoria's podcast, like I know you're aware, I know you're dumping into intuition, like you have grown. And I mean, literally, sometimes at a quantum rate, like you're not that woman anymore. I remember when I lost my job. I mean, obviously, a whole big part of my story hinges on that because that was my identity. I didn't just lose my job. I lose my spot in my household as the breadwinner. I lost my identity, my ego. Like it was the burning of who I was as a person. And ironically enough, like I got fired right here in the closet. So it's all very full circle. It's like, I see you, universe. It wasn't funny.
What a gift it gave you at that
Yes.
moment.
Oh, what a gift. But one thing I knew I had to do, and once I kind of like, dug myself out of that dark place, obviously this happened it's been almost 3 years. I had to get rid of all of my clothes because the company I'd worked there for 11 years. It was the only job I'd had after having kids. So that was a big thing for me as a career woman. I
Yeah.
identify with that so much. This wardrobe that I have built over the last 11 years was tied to post motherhood, which is a whole nother style conversation, and this particular job and career. Every item of clothing that I owned connected back. And I had a very forward facing, presenting, making videos kind of position towards the end there. So they were all connected to trips I'd taken. They all connected to big presentations I had given. They had all connected to like the day I got promoted or this other big event because I was really focused on achieving and climbing the ladder. That's one of my gifts and curses, right? And I was like, there was this one particular dress. The color was made for me. The shape was made for me. It was my style to a T, the fabric, the silhouette of it, it hit my legs just right. Like my neckline, like there was not a piece of my body that didn't look amazing, whether I was 100 pounds, 150 pounds, like it didn't matter. And I worn that dress to so many of the best events and moments. And I was like, I have to let you go.
Yeah.
Because that dress was associated with all of those achievements and was associated with that person and all the things that I achieved as her, but it was not her anymore. And I knew that if I was going to start this business and phase into this next level of myself and this what I'm trying to build with my business, I had to let her go. And it broke my heart. And it's really hard, but it was an energy leak for me. So that's number 4. It was a beautiful segue. That was the leak for me. Is like, yes, I can keep this dress. It's the most perfect teal skater silhouette dress. Looks amazing. 3/4 length sleeves showing all my favorite body parts. But that woman doesn't exist. And that dress had so many things attached to it. So I was like, okay, I have to let you go. And I will never ever forget. And I mean, still some of my favorite pictures of me today are in that dress and things like that. But I just knew I had to let it go because it's an energy leak and I couldn't step into that space. I couldn't sit here with you on this podcast today and be my highest vibration of myself wearing things that correlate to an old version of myself. So there's so many reasons to let go of pieces and it's hard. So I donate. My number one tip, my number one style tip, if you don't take anything away, pay it forward, donate it to the next woman who is that woman, like the woman that's just two steps behind you, right?
Yeah.
Like she's on this journey with you, but she's just two steps behind you and she needs that dress. Or the woman who may be coming out of an abusive relationship and is rebuilding her life and donate it to, like, we have local spaces like that for women and children. Donate it to a women and children's shelter. Like somebody else can wear that dress, pay it forward, and to me, like that's true abundance in and of itself. And you will get you will find the next dress. I mean, I think I have a couple other things now that have replaced that. And I'm sure next year or in the year after that, when I grow again in this business, I'll be like, that old thing. Okay, well, 2003, I mean, 2023, Katie needs a new outfit.
Yeah, wow. And you weren't wrong with the depth that you have as a woman, because there's so much depth in what you've said. Because there, and you're so right. It's what we make things mean. And it's not even
Yeah.
what we make things mean. It's we're human, we have experiences, we have memories. I mean, hello, we're human, right? So of course we have memories and we attach things to things because that's how memories work. But then on an even deeper level, let's talk about weight gain, because that's a lot what many of my clients have to navigate if they're, depending on where they're at in their eating disorder recovery journey. And that usually involves letting go of the clothes that used to fit them in the eating disorder, which are usually very small. And so it's not just a case of, oh, this doesn't fit, I'll let it go. It's what you make it mean when you let that go. So how do you, I mean, you've said a lot already, but if you had a client who had gained weight, I mean, like yourself, you've explained that so beautifully yourself, but if you were supporting somebody and they were really struggling to let go of smaller clothes, what are they usually making it mean, and how do you support them through that?
So I think what they usually make it mean is it's like if I release these clothes, I'm admitting a truth that I'm ashamed of. And there's some kind of shame or guilt, or those are the two emotions that I feel like come up the most. And they're really ugly. And they're the ones that we want to suppress and push down.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel them all the time about many different things. So I think there's that, like, if I let these clothes go, I am fully in my truth of that, like, they don't fit anymore and I've let myself down somehow.
Mm.
Um, that's different for everyone. So I feel like you're probably more the expert on like what it means to them in that space. I do get a ton, like one of the biggest objections I get when someone, like people come close to me and they'll ask me questions, we'll have great conversations. And then the biggest objection I get is, well, I don't want to invest not just like in your services, right, and helping me get here, but also then I have to buy the clothes, but I'm not at the weight I want to be at. So
Mm.
like it doesn't make sense to spend the money on the clothes.
Yes.
Like, yeah, I can totally understand how you can feel that way, but that's such that chicken or egg conversation. And you're like, okay, so do you think feeling good squeezing into the pants that don't fit, that are going to remind you every day of, not saying that you did this, but the story you might be telling yourself is that, oh, look how I've let myself down. Like I can't fit in these pants, right? So you're gonna squeeze into clothes that don't fit you every day. You're not gonna feel good in them. They're not gonna flatter your body shape that you have now, or even that you're going for. And it's a daily physical reminder of how you have let yourself down in some way. And I think we do it and like little microaggressions all day long, like not even with our weight, just like all day long. Like my big one is needing external validation from other people instead of like celebrating myself. I'm like constantly like looking for my client to tell me that her call was so amazing and like
Mm.
basing my worth on like how they are showing up. And I have to check myself and be like, okay, if this person isn't showing up to the calls, that's not a reflection of me. That's really a reflection of them. So we're like all day long we're doing that. And then I think like to have the clothes on your physical body,
Mm.
like what a way to like punish yourself, to like for that feeling that you may be having. Like they say, like a lot of times when you're really stressed out, we do this with one of my kids, like if you're mentally kind of spiraling, like how do you ground back down? Like what do I see? What can I touch? Like what do I hear? Like I got to get back into my five senses, like get back to this basic level. And one of them is like, what do I see? What can I touch? Well, I feel the clothes on my body all day, right? So it's like constantly me forsaking myself like all day long. So that's one thing on like why just you have to let the clothes go. So you're constantly just physically won't be comfortable. We haven't even gotten to like how you emotionally are feeling, right? Like you physically just aren't comfortable. And then just even if they're not too tight, like have you ever worn a sweater and it's just not quite long enough? And like all day long, you're like pulling on the sweater. So
Yeah.
like you could like we could be on this podcast, and if I felt like that, like I won't even I wear certain earrings when I podcast because certain earrings will make noise and then like it will be distracting for me. And I know I will lose my stream of consciousness when I'm like talking, and I'm like, okay, so don't wear those. Note to self. It's the same thing. Like if you have a sweater on that's maybe just too short or a little too baggy or it falls off the shoulder, like you're constantly messing with it. You're constantly tweaking it to see, like you're just constantly caught up in those physical sensations all day long. So you're not present, which really leads me to my biggest way. You're not present in the moment. You're not creating any memories, your good memories, right? You're not present in the moment. You're missing things and you're just like in that stress spiral all day long. You're just in the inner dialogue of your head all day long, like completely missing the moments that make life life. So one of my really good examples, so I had a client, and this usually comes up a lot in the summer, because and we're getting ready to enter that season.
Yeah.
So, it's around shorts, it's around skirts, it's around those kind of things. Like, how do I wear this? And I went through this myself. And so I think that's one of the things I really love around this business is I try to being genuine and transparent is definitely one of my core values. It is a big thing for us in our household. So, I do believe I tracked like what I need to work through. So I don't tell people to do anything like I haven't done or not willing to do.
Yes.
And with jean shorts specifically, a lot of times we have to go up higher in size. And with white jeans specifically, they run smaller.
Mm.
So you have to go up in size. And that, no matter if you're a 0 or a 22, a lot of times we've been trained that our worth is associated with our pant size or our clothing size or whatever. It's hard to go up.
Yes.
So I was working with this one client and she was like, I really want to learn how to wear shorts this summer. It's like, okay. She's like, but I have a hard time like going from like a 12 to a 14 or even to a 16 because now we're teetering like I can shop regular sizes or plus sizes. And that's where people really start to get in their head a little bit. And I said, well, what are your goals this summer? Like, let's go back to your lifestyle goals. Because at the end of the day, I think that's what it's all about. And she's like, well, these are the things I want to do this summer. I want to take my kids to go mini golfing. We want to do this. We want to do that. And I said, if you don't have the clothes to go to the beach, to go to the mini golf, to do those things, do you think you're gonna hit that summer bucket list with your kids? And she
Mm.
was like, probably not. And I was like, and is your family like one of your core values? Absolutely, it is. Okay, so you're really going to let the size of those jean shorts stop you from taking your kid to play mini golf. You're really going to walk up to your son and say, dude, I know, I promise you, we're going to have this great summer vacation and we're going to go mini golfing and we're going to go to the beach. But mommy really cannot buy size 14 shorts. Like that fucks with me mentally. So just sit on the couch. Here's your iPad. I'm going to go do whatever I'm going to do. And maybe next year, when I get my shit together and I'm really back in a size 10 or 12 or whatever your size is, we'll go do mini golf and we'll go to the beach. No, you would never do that. Right? So then you have to truly ask yourself, what does the sizing even really mean?
Yeah.
So long story short, she bought the shorts. Whatever you need to do, cut the tag out. I don't care. I'll write a different size in there for you. Whatever you need to do. And then she was like, oh my God, we've had the best summer. I've built so many deep relationships with my family. I felt present. I didn't feel like I had to check my phone. I didn't feel like I had to do all these other things. And then the funny part is this, and you probably could agree with this too. Then the funny part is then you start losing the weight because now you're not like constantly obsessing over the weight. And I hate when people say stuff like that. Like when I first started my business and they're like, just be happy and it'll come. Like I get it, it sucks. But there is some truth in that. Is like when we're present, when we're happy, when we're really focusing on what feels good, we don't have to do the other things. Like I don't have to look for myself, like the external validation for my friends to tell me I'm amazing. I know that I'm amazing because I'm letting myself be present or creating those memories. And that's a constant battle. But I'm a firm believer of stepping outside of our comfort zone and being really, really intentional, and not just with like our goals, but with our clothes. Because if my goal for 2023 is to go do 10 speaking engagements, if I don't have the clothes that the woman that does speaking engagements, am I going to actually pitch myself? I probably won't even pitch myself.
Mm.
So before you even get the yes, like I probably won't even do the footwork to even get the yes, because I don't believe that I have the clothes, or I don't believe I can do it. Because our wardrobe reflects our lifestyle, reflects what we think about ourselves. I believe it's a little bit of like a reflection of what's going on inside. I mean, it is, I think, what is style other than like a self concept of how we see ourselves?
Yeah, I mean, mic drop, everything what you've just said. And
Thank you.
also, I mean, there's so many directions I want to go in. Let's go in away from COVID, but from working from home on Zoom, because that is
Oh,
the norm now. And
yes.
so today, before I pressed record, I was like, I've got a bit of a cold, I've got a red nose, I've got a tissue here, I'm a bit sniffly. So probably without even consciously thinking about it, I've chose like a comfy jumper, some looser jeans. Whereas if I was feeling like 100% me, it would be the red dress, the no underwear. Like it's so true. Like it just connects you with how you feel. And my fiance Wouter, even on a Sunday, I mean, I'm like you on a Sunday, I need that completely downtime. Don't even brush your hair, put it in a top knot,
Yes.
no makeup on, because I like to feel that way occasionally. He even has his posh shoes on, his suit on every single day, because that's a man he wants to be, and that's his thing. And that's, when he first started doing that, I was like a bit turning my nose up at him. But I get it now, because so what if someone can only see this on Zoom, like your head and your shoulders, and that's about it? If you're sat with pajama bottoms on, you're not going to be in the queen energy on a call than if you were sat like properly dressed with shoes on, as if you were going to go out into the street or into town. And so, so I know you spoke about this a lot, but those of us that are working from Zoom and they think, oh, what's the point? No one can see me. Why is there a fucking point to
Oh,
do
there's so
it for
many
yourself?
fucking points. I love this. I mean, I work from Zoom 95% of my business is Zoom, and I get it. One, well, let's just say like it's totally okay to like dress down, but
Yes.
I'm the queen of casual chic. Okay, like that's my favorite place to be. But there's a difference between like your jumper's super cute, right? It's still got little sequins or
Yeah.
rhinestones on it. It looks great on your skin tone. Like there's so many different things about it. And yes, it might be comfortable in that space, but like I think I first thing I said is like, oh my God, I love your makeup. Like your eyes just look so sparkly. So there's a space to like play with. Like dressing down doesn't and being comfortable doesn't mean like we have to look like shit and we have dog hair or cat hair on our clothes and it's old and it's like
Yeah.
a matching cute sweatsuit. I can feel just as awesome in a matching cute sweatsuit with like my hoop earrings and my lipstick as I do in a little black dress,
Yeah.
because that's what I've chose to do. So that's like one myth I'm like constantly out to bust, is like you don't have to like be in a three-piece suit on Zoom, but you should change out of your pajamas, one, to send the signal to your brain that, especially I think when you're working from home, the boundaries get really fucking blurry,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
When you change out of your pajamas into clothes, one, you're sending a physical signal to your brain of like, okay, now I'm working, right? It helps you be more productive. There's been studies from big universities here in the States called enclothed cognition that we associate certain items of clothing with cognitive skills and the way we think. So,
Mhm.
and what we think they mean, right? So like we could take
Yeah.
a white lab coat and like if I tell you you're a doctor, you're going to show up this way. And if I give you that same white lab coat and tell you you're a painter, you're going to tap into different cognitive skills, right? So like that's been proven. Everybody knows. So the way I use it working from home is like I change because one, it tells my body like, okay, Katie, you have this certain amount of time to work to do your deep work because one of our big limiting beliefs is time, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to wear this outfit from 9 to 3, and that so my body knows, my mind knows it's time to work, and this is what we wear when we work and where we're tapping that creative energy. It's almost like ritual, and I love rituals, right? Just like when I get my crystals and I burn my sage, I'm sending signals to my brain, and my brain's gonna let off a chemical reaction that says, okay, well, now we're like gonna get into all the things. So when I wear certain clothes, my mind is like, okay, well, now it's time to channel that like higher level style energy, and we show up. So that's one, just like it's an easy way to say, hey, this part of my day is my working day, right? Two, I think it's an easy way to build deep self respect
Mm.
because you're putting the intention and the energy that you want. You're vibrating at a different level. You're saying, I'm worthy of wearing these clothes and no one can see me.
Yeah.
Except for shoulders up, because every time I go to the bathroom and wash my hands and I'm looking at myself, you're having an internal dialogue, whether you think you are or not. You really quickly are. And sometimes, when you're doing something scary, or maybe you're getting on Zoom with the client that's like that next level, you can look at yourself and you can be like, you are that bitch. Like, it's a total Beyonce moment for me all the time, like where I can pump myself up. So that's another reason I think it's really important to get dressed. And then last but not least, I was just having a conversation with one of my clients about this. When we get dressed up for Zoom calls, I think it's more important because it shows that I not only respect myself and my time, I respect you and your time. If I met you for coffee, I wouldn't show up for to coffee with you in my pajamas, right? Because that would be like rude, for lack of a better word. Why do I respect you less just because we're virtual? It's already easier for both of us, right? We already didn't have to drive. We already don't have to get a babysitter. We already don't have to do this. But by putting the intention and prioritizing how we can connect virtually on Zoom with putting some time and energy to how I look is respect to not only myself but to you, because we all know, we all see the memes are my love language. All I'm gonna do is look at myself the whole time on Zoom, and if I'm messing like, god, she looks so cute, oh my god, let me fix my hair, I'm not listening to you
Yeah.
because now I'm too worried about what I look like. And I'm like, oh god, Victoria's hair is so cute, look at her eye makeup, I should have did that. Oh, she's saying something really cool right now, I should be listening. And
Yeah.
we're not present in the moment at all. But then outside of that, it's a way to create connection on Zoom. Like Zoom can get really boring and it's super distracting because also you have a screen here and you have your Slack and your DMs and your email notifications. How else am I creating really deep connection with you? I'm gonna give you something to look at. Like, look at these lips, baby. They're so juicy.
I
You have
haven't
to pay
stopped
attention.
looking. I haven't stopped looking.
It's a way for us to create connection. And like as humans, our need to connect is so deep, right? Is that's like base pyramid, the bottom. If I can draw you in visually, like it makes you feel like you're closer to me. It makes you feel like you can reach out and touch me. When we wear shiny jewelry on screen, it's another way to like create connection. Like your brain is like looking for those little things to like attach itself to. So you'll feel more connected to me. When we get off of Zoom, it's going to be easy for both of us to hold our body language and our eye contact together. So when you get off the Zoom, you'll feel that deep connected feeling that you have after you talk to a friend of like, man, they really listened to me. I really felt seen on that call because I almost, and not everyone, and it's different. But to me, I've been experiencing this and I just been thinking about it because I don't want to attach too much of a meaning to it all the time. But sometimes I feel like a little disrespected of like the 10 or 15 minutes that it took for you to like get ready to care about our time together wasn't important enough to you to do whatever those things are because I put a ton of time and intention and prepping for my calls and making sure that I'm hydrated and I've eaten and I'm not going to be distracted by my earrings or whatever it is because I want to be focused on the person because I love a deep connection. Now that's not always the case, right? Like some last week I was a hot ass mess. Okay, all of my clients are probably like, Katie, we need to get off Zoom. It's not perfect, but if we're like driving towards like a standard, for ourselves, I think that's how I've personally really developed like a deep, deep self-respect. And I value my connections with other people. So to me, that's also how I can say, hey, like, I care about this meeting with you, and I care about the time, and I want you to feel good, and I want me to feel good. And that's just all the reasons why I lean into this.
Yeah, it is so much more than just looking a certain way.
Yes.
It's so much more than that. And how would you support a client through? I get this a lot, and obviously this has come to me also, those that are listening that are struggling with this, but those that are like, I can't look at myself. What's the point in buying nice underwear or nice clothes when I don't like the way I look? Someone who is really struggling with low self-esteem and low self-confidence, I
Hmm.
know from being in that place and feeling the way I felt, but still celebrating my style and brushing my, like, that has a massive positive impact. How would you support someone who was perhaps in that spot where they didn't want to look at themselves on Zoom and they don't think they're worth it? How would you
Hmm.
help them?
Yeah, I actually don't get that one as much that you would probably think. But for me, whether it's the like, I don't want to look at myself, or I don't think that I'm like worthy, or I won't even let myself wear the clothes thing, or I'm uncomfortable with it, I usually do a like small doses of this. It's like, okay, well, what if you just look at yourself for just like a few minutes? Or if, for me, it's easy because I can also put it off onto the clothes a little bit. So I'll be like, okay, well, what if you buy the jeans and just put the jeans on and then feel the jeans? What do the jeans feel like? Do they feel soft? Do they feel hard? Hopefully they don't. How do they feel in your body? And then once I can get them like connecting with the clothing, then sometimes it's easier to make the shift to our bodies, because the clothing is a neutral like party that we don't have like a lot of different connections to. Because the one I get the most is like, well, I want to wear this, but how the hell could I wear that out of the house? But in my experience, it's all just baby steps and meeting people where they're at. So like, okay, I hear you, I see you, like, well, and asking lots of really curious questions of like, well, why don't you want to look at yourself? What is that mental agreement that you have? Is it something that someone's said? And then just like going deeper, like, so once we get to that next layer, like, okay, so do you believe that? And then like when someone said, because a lot of times it's, in my experience, it's the female relationships that are really close to us that have made us start these dialogues with ourselves.
Mhm.
Most of the time for me, it's like, well, my mom or my sister or my sister's friend or my teacher, like these females that we've looked up to in our lives that have told us these things about our bodies that then in turn, or my best friend has had a six pack or whatever, and I don't. And I'm over here looking at my fupa and my stretch marks. I mean, when I had my stretch marks after my first kid, it was so hard. But for me, it was first, because for me, it's always first. It was like letting myself wear clothes that I felt good in after having kids, that like they actually fit. First was like, okay, the clothes actually fit. And then once I started feeling cute in my clothes and confident in that space again, because I connect with that so deeply, then I could stand in front of the mirror and be like, okay, yeah, like I don't love these stretch marks, but I feel like myself because I'm connected through to my clothes, because again, that's big for me. So now I could look at them a little bit more objectively instead of just being like, oh, I'm trash and I'm like unworthy because of this. So I felt like I went through that journey mostly right after having kids, but I don't get that one a lot of like, I don't even want to look at myself. For me, it's always like, I won't even let myself put on the clothes. So
Yeah.
it's like, put on the clothes, wear it around your house, get really comfortable with it. Then there's other things that I've actually, that one client I was talking about in the beginning that really focuses on habits, that we talked about physical things that you can do, is like if you won't even look at yourself and you find yourself spinning physically, like your heart racing and things like that, to get into some of those vagus nerve. So I would tell people like, I've had someone put on a dress or an outfit and they're like literally start hyperventilating and like, I cannot wear this. So I'm like, okay, well, lay on the floor, put your legs up, start thumping on your chest, take some deep breaths. And it feels like it's just like a little practice of, so we do that, then take the dress off, don't wear it out. Then we wear the dress or the outfit for a couple hours and then put it back. Then maybe we wear the dress to, the grocery store, somewhere small, like, you know, that wouldn't stand out that much. And then we can continue on. So I don't know if that specifically answers your question, but
It
that's what comes up for me.
it definitely did. And thank you, Katie, because it is the small action step. So for me, it would be like, well, let's exactly what you said. Let's just practice looking and then maybe like brush your hair, put it up. It's the little things because it's not about the look, it's about the effort you're putting in for yourself. Fuck everybody else. It's
Yes.
we're all about ourselves anyway. We worry about ourselves.
Yes.
We worry about what other people think of us. It's all about us. So everything to do with the clothes we choose. I mean, yes, it might be nice to have external validation, but we're doing it, or I invite people to start doing it for themselves, because
Yes.
the four pillars that you've shared, that just hits the spot with every single one. And
Yes.
so, oh my God, I have so many questions, but we're already nearly up.
I know. I was like, I can talk to you for hours. And it's funny because I am always seeking external validation in my achievements and not in how I look, probably because for me that's a safe space. It's like style and things like that.
Yeah.
So I understand like that need for external validation from that space. But I tell people this 1,000 times. I'm like, do you remember that you wore those jeans last week 3 times? And they're like, no. And I'm like, so no one else remembers. We are so much more worried about ourselves. I couldn't even tell you what my husband wore yesterday. We worked together every single day.
Yeah.
Like in the house together. Like, I don't care what he wears because I'm worried about myself.
Yeah, that is so true. And so I want you to talk about your style squad, because I think we need like 10 minutes to talk about this, because I also personally want to know exactly what's going off in there, how you can work with women. I also need to talk to you about something personally, I address that I will need you to find for me for like a really big thing. So that's exciting.
Yay!
So do you do that? How do you work with women? Do you do one-off things? Tell us about Style Squad.
Yeah,
Just
well,
sell yourself, girl.
pimp myself out.
Tip yourself out. That's
Like
it.
a juicy grape. Come get you some. So like the biggest, so we'll start like top. So my like signature program is I do like a 3 month, like I call it style coaching because it's really me taking you through the journey of all the things. What's your vision? What's your colors that look good on you and raise your vibe, not just look good on you. Um, cleaning out the closet, how to clean out your closet. We do that together. We create outfits with what you already have, and then I do the shopping for you. We do styling, like the whole shebang. So there's that. And saying that out loud, I'm like, first, I also have to give my disclaimer when we're doing that. And anything with styling is like, I like to follow the know the rules, break the rules, right? So, like, you're allowed to do anything. Fashion is art. There's a little science behind it as well, as far as like balancing up our body shapes and things like that, but it's art. So, but for most of us and busy lives, it's also nice to have a framework to start from. It's like the bumpers and the bowling alley. It's like, here, just like, let's play here. And then once you get comfortable here, now we can take the bumpers off and you can break all the rules you want to break. So that's like something that I offer for the woman who's really in this space of like a rebirth and really is like, I haven't really ever invested in myself in this space, and I want you to like just do it all for me and walk me through this whole journey and set me up for success, basically, so then I can style myself.
Mm.
Then my next level is like my entrepreneurs and my people who are like, I have an event, I can't be bothered, so like if you could shop for me, that would be amazing.
That's
And I'm like,
me.
yeah. Oh, that's me in so many spaces of my life. It's the like, because at first realm, it's really like around the clarity. I'm really coming into this new phase or a really big, maybe we're doing some branding work. So, like, we're really going to spend some time together. But then my next phase is like my entrepreneurs who are photo shoots, big events, just event styling. So, I definitely do that. I prefer to do those with my ladies who know themselves, like that can tell me everything about themselves because it's really important because the first thing you will notice is it's never the clothes. You think you're hiring me for clothes, but that's not what you're hiring me for. Because as soon as I start pulling outfits for you, you'd be like, oh, I forgot to tell you, I can't wear that because it makes me think of my mom. Or, oh, I can't wear that because one time in third grade, da 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 da, right? Like we all have those stories. So there's that. And then of course, like I do one-off package. I do closet cleanouts. So and all of this virtual too. So I do closet cleanouts with a lot of ladies where I have this program called Shop Your Closet. So that's kind of like my intro offer of we get in and create your vision on like defining your style, and then we'll do a shop your closet. So we'll get in. I love accountability, right? So it's us creating outfits together, holding space on like, should you keep it? Should you not keep it? And really asking yourself those serious questions like, is that actually your style? Is it not? And creating the piles. Um, and essentially like learning how to wear the clothes you have without spending a lot of money. Because that's should be your number one thing with a stylist is that person should save you money in the long run, helping you extend the life of your clothes. It's not just always about trashing your clothes. Some of my style mentors tell me like I'm too good at helping people style their old clothes. Or like, Katie, they need to be updated. I'm like, I know, but I also want people to know how to use the clothes that they have. Because when you start mastering that, then buying new clothes is easy because then you see where those holes come in. So I have that many offer. And then, last but not least, I really wanted to make styling really accessible because people think it's for, business owners, influencers, celebrities, and it can be, right? But also, I do think it's a mental wellness tool that every single person should have access to because just like food, you have to get dressed every day,
Yeah.
right? You don't have to wear Gucci every day. I mean, you can shop at Target. I don't care. I shop at Target all the time. But you deserve to feel amazing no matter what. So I wanted to create something that was super accessible for the person that's not just like, hey, do it for me. And deep connection is really, really important to me. And I love to be the lead with entertainment. So I wanted to create a community for women who are ready to just step out of that status quo. Like I remember when I was starting my business and I was losing my job, it was the scariest time of my life. And how I survived that outside of my clothes was my community. It was the women behind me who believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. When I said, okay, I'm not going to go back to corporate. When people were like, here, I'm sending your resume here and I'm sending your resume here. And I had to be like, well, actually, I think I'm gonna like start a business. That was hard, dude. That was so hard. And if it wasn't for, and I have no idea what that even means. If it wasn't for the ladies in my corner who were like, yes, you can do this, you can do this. Like my best friend at the time was like, I'm so glad you got fired. I was like, what? Like, I'm like crying. She was like, so glad you got fired because now you get to know who you really are. And I was like, God, I hate her because she's right and I'm scared.
Yeah.
So, community was so important for me. So, I created the Style Squad because that was kind of what I was starting to call my clients and like my podcast listeners anyway. So I wanted to take what we talk about on the podcast and turn it into a community. So it's a monthly membership community called the Style Squad. It's self-development meets style meets a whole hell of a lot of fun. That's a key thing for me. So it's around like sharing your squad secrets. I think one of the things I love about the beauty and fashion industry is sharing. And it's not everyone's going to have different things that work for them because we're all different. And I think that's also the beauty in it, right? It's just sharing those like life hacks and like just sleepover secrets, like when we were young and like you and your friends would get dressed for going to the club, or even when you were younger and you'd have sleepovers and you would talk about the boys you like and just how to navigate life together. Like those moments are so sacred, and I feel like we've lost that. And I mean, working virtually, you really lose that. So I really wanted to create a community where women could connect, where they could support each other in breaking out of status quo, whatever that is for them. Women who are ready to stop making excuses, women who are done saying, I could never do that, or that must be nice. Like we're leaving that language behind us. We want real friends, people that we know don't gossip about us when we get up from the table, women that we know are cheering us on even when we don't think it makes sense or we think we're crazy. And I wanted it to be off of social media. So it's off of social media. It's a dedicated app. We'll have monthly Zoom calls. I'm committing to at least one, but I'm probably more than that. One Zoom call a month. We're gonna have a special guest. I have so many style. You get access to like the style resources. It's just in a really fun place to like build belief in yourself, explore opportunities. Like I said, build new female relationships, because in my experience with the styling thing, it's a lot of the narratives that we've carried from the influence of our biggest and our most prized female relationships. I know this sounds really gendered, but I primarily focus on styling women, and that's just been the experience I've had. So it's really just around sisterhood, and having fun and being styled, and also mindset and bragging. I have a whole section in our community called bitch brag, and like you better get in there and drop your brags, because how can we really love ourselves, how can we really look at ourselves, right, like naked emotionally and physically, if we don't brag about ourselves? Like, it is so uncomfortable, but you have to do it. Like, it's uncomfortable for me to sit here and tell you how awesome this community is, but I have to do that because that's how I learned to love myself.
Oh my gosh, so much yes. And when we're bragging it, so we only feel uncomfortable because of our conditioning. I still remember someone saying at school, like, oh gosh, she just loves herself. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, well,
Yes.
I mean, yeah, there's a difference between arrogance and self-love, but well, yeah, good for fucking her if she actually loves herself and she's confident AF when she walks across the room.
Yes. I know, like, teach me your ways. Give me some of that. Like, when I was really young, like, I really, really loved myself, and I really felt I was different because my grandmother just used to like dote on me. And then, then you get out into the world and you're like, oh, I'm not allowed to like love myself. I'm not allowed to believe that I'm going to change the world. And for a long time, I shoved that down. And through creating the Style Squad, like I've been in a hole for like, it feels like a month, like really building this out, what I wanted it to be, how I wanted to support people, I wanted to, what the style journey to like get people in there. And I really want it to be fun. And I also didn't want it to be like, this is why I said, like, I'm committing to at least this, because I want to have space to let it evolve into whatever it needs to be. Because I don't want to say every Tuesday, third Tuesday of the month, we're going to meet, we're going to do this, because I want it to flow and I want it to be fluid. And I really want that masculine, that feminine energy to meet up. And that was hard because I was like, okay, Katie, if you're going to be a leader, like you have to do it this way and you have to follow these rules. And I was like, no, I'm allowed to create it however I want. And I learned so much about myself. And I was like, okay, and we need to brag, because I've learned so much about myself and I don't share that. Like, vulnerability, how I've grown and how I've started my business is from other people being vulnerable and showing me the way. And I think that's a big part of community, right? It was like my way showers. They were like, hey, without even saying, like, Katie, this is how you do it, they would just do it. And you were like, oh, so that you just start a community? Okay. So like we can just do that? Like I'm allowed to just do that? Like if you watch one person do it, you're like, "Oh, I guess I can just do that." Like that's possible for me.
Permission slips and bragging. And when the bragging is received from a true sisterhood and celebrated, heaven yes to that. I mean, it sounds incredible, Katie. And I'm going to share before we wrap up, because I know my listeners are nosy, because I would be the same. The thing I need a dress for, and obviously we can talk about this privately, like close to the time. My fiance, have you heard of FHM, the magazine FHM?
Yes.
Yeah, so he's a writer for FHM and he coaches the CEO of FHM. And for his second book, he's having a big launch party. And in the FHM top 500 most beautiful women, and we're going to be there. And so I need a fucking hot ass dress.
Yes, you do.
I have no idea where to start. So I'm like, Katie can style me.
Yes, I feel like that's been the place that has really been coming up, is pushing those limits on showing up like in galas and these big events and photo shoots. And that's been what 2023 feels like it has really been for me. So hell yes, let's do this.
Do this. Thank you. And to my listeners who I know are obviously listening, it's such a good position for me to be in right now, having been in the depths of body hate and hating the way I looked and everything, thinking it looked shit on me, knowing that I'm going to be in a room with like 500 incredibly beautiful supermodels, but also knowing that takes nothing away from my worthiness and sexiness. Whether I have cellulite, whether I have a bit of a belly, I don't give a shit, but I do give a shit about feeling like $1 million. So
Yes.
to be in the position of like, this is who I am, all of this, and yes, you are stunning and you are beautiful, but I'm also me. And the difference is a world of difference between how I used to be. Even when I was really skinny and like idolized, I still wouldn't have the confidence I have today. So it's not about the way you look, it's about the way you feel.
Oh, absolutely. Like my favorite thing is like I was using those examples was like getting dressed up with my friends to go out to the club. All of us are like trying to, you know, get the most like dressed up for whatever that is. And it's like I don't want to be the only one dressed up. Like y'all gotta dress up with me. Like I love like when a bunch of people are in their power, we're all dressed up to what feels authentic to us, like choosing the color dress that feels good to you, the cut of the dress that feels good to you, the makeup that feels good to you. And then when you see another beautiful person, you're like, "Oh my God, that dress is amazing." And you that's a genuine because you know your
Yes.
dress is amazing too. Like that is the best feeling, like when I feel so confident because I put the time and intention, not attention, intention into how I wanted to feel when I walk in that room so that I could receive you and receive your beauty and we can exchange that. And like, what a high vibe. Like, y'all are just gonna be freaking floating. I cannot wait to see the pictures.
Thank you, Katie. I mean, like I say, I need to stop now because I need to be mindful of your time. We could talk for hours. Obviously, I'll put all your social links below, but go and check her out. She's on Instagram. Obviously, everything will be below. But thank you for your energy, for your
Thank you.
wisdom, for your time, for your love. I love you, Katie. Thank you.
Oh, I love you too, Queen. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for holding so much time and space. And you know, I love you to pieces. And you're gonna be on my podcast soon too. So mwah, mwah.
Thank you. And thank you, Queens, for listening. See you next time.
Yes.